Imagine this. Every single month, you wake up with the same quiet promise in your head. This time I'll finally get ahead. You open your phone. You check your bank account. And nothing is technically wrong. You're not broke. You're not in crisis. You're not drowning. But there's this constant pressure sitting in your chest. This feeling that no matter how much you earn, no matter how careful you try to be, you're always just a little bit behind. Like life is moving faster than you can keep up. Like everyone else somehow figured something out that you didn't. And the worst part is you're actually trying. You're not ignoring your finances. You're not being reckless. You're saving money. You're cutting expenses. You're doing what you were told is the right thing. And yet, nothing really changes. So you save a little more this month. You skip a few unnecessary purchases. Maybe you even feel a small sense of control for a moment. But then life happens again. Bills, subscriptions, unexpected costs. Small daily expenses that don't feel important in the moment but quietly stack up over time. And suddenly that progress disappears. And you're right back where you started. Maybe slightly better. Maybe slightly worse. But never truly ahead, never truly free. Just stuck in this loop that feels impossible to break, and over time, that loop becomes your normal. It becomes your baseline. You stop expecting real progress. You start settling for not getting worse. And that's where the real problem begins. Because saving money starts to feel like the goal instead of what it actually is, which is just the first step. Not the final destination. Truth that most people don't realize is this. Saving money by itself will never make you rich. It was never designed to. Saving is about protection, not growth. It's about stability, not acceleration. It's about slowing down the damage, not creating momentum. And if you build your entire financial life around saving alone, you're essentially choosing to play defense forever in a game where offense is what actually wins. Think about it like this. Imagine trying to win a race where instead of running forward, your only strategy is to slow down how fast you're moving backward. You might feel like you're improving because you're not falling as quickly, but you're still not moving toward the finish line. You're just delaying the outcome. And that's exactly what happens when your entire focus is on saving instead of growing. And this is where most people get trapped. Because saving feels safe. It feels responsible. It feels like you're doing something right. There's no fear, no uncertainty, no volatility. Your money is just there, sitting still, predictable, controlled, and psychologically. That feels good, it feels secure, but financially, it's one of the slowest paths you can take, because while your money is sitting still, the world around you is not. Prices are rising, opportunities are moving, assets are growing, and inflation is quietly reducing the value of everything you've worked to save. Which means that even though your bank account number stays the same, its real value is slowly decreasing over time. This is the invisible force that most people underestimate. Inflation doesn't feel aggressive. It doesn't hit you all at once. It works slowly, quietly, almost invisibly. And that's what makes it dangerous, because you don't react to it. You don't feel the urgency to outpace it. You just continue saving, thinking you're being responsible, while in reality, you're slowly losing ground. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Because the real issue isn't just saving. It's how saving shapes your mindset. When you focus only on saving, You start thinking in limits instead of opportunities. You start asking questions like, what can I cut? What can I remove? What can I sacrifice? Instead of asking, how can I grow? How can I multiply? How can I expand? And that shift in thinking changes everything, because there's a ceiling to how much you can save. You can only cut so many expenses. You can only reduce your lifestyle to a certain point before it starts affecting your quality of life. But there is no real ceiling to how much your money can grow if it's working for you instead of just sitting there. And this is exactly the difference between people who stay stuck and people who eventually break out. It's not just about income. It's not just about discipline. It's about understanding that money has two roles. It can either sit or it can work, and if it's not working, it's slowly losing. But here's the part nobody explains clearly. Growth doesn't feel like growth in the beginning. It feels slow. It feels boring. It feels almost disappointing. And this is where most people make the biggest mistake of their financial life. They quit too early. They expect immediate results. They look at their small returns and think it's not worth it. They compare it to the effort they're putting in and decide to stop. And by doing that, they guarantee they never reach the phase where things actually start to change, because real growth is delayed. It's not linear. It doesn't show up in a straight, predictable line. It builds slowly, almost invisibly, and then at some point, it accelerates. But you only get to that acceleration if you stay consistent long enough. And most people don't stop during the hardest phase. The phase where it feels like nothing is happening. The phase where your contributions are doing most of the work and your returns feel insignificant. And that's exactly when they should be continuing, not quitting. And then there's another layer to this. Something even more subtle. And that's lifestyle inflation. As your income increases, your lifestyle expands with it. Not dramatically at first, but gradually, almost unnoticeably. Better food, slightly nicer clothes, more convenience, more subscriptions, more comfort, and before you realize it, the extra money that could have been used to create growth is already going. And the worst part is, it doesn't feel like overspending. It feels normal. It feels justified. It feels like you've earned it. And in many ways, you have. But financially, it keeps you in the same place, just at a higher level of comfort, not a higher level of freedom. So now you're earning more, spending more, saving roughly the same percentage, and wondering why your life hasn't changed. And the answer is simple but uncomfortable. Because nothing fundamentally changed in how your money behaves. Only how it flows. So what actually needs to happen if you want to break out of this cycle? You don't just save. You direct your money with intention. You give it a job beyond sitting. You make it part of a system that grows over time. And that doesn't mean taking extreme risks or trying to get rich quickly. It means understanding that consistency over time beats intensity in short bursts. It means shifting from short-term thinking to long-term thinking, from control to growth, from fear to calculated patience. Because the people who eventually build real wealth are not the ones who saved the most. They're the ones who stayed consistent the longest. They're the ones who didn't quit when it felt slow. They're the ones who trusted the process even when the results weren't obvious yet. And that's the hardest part. Trusting something you can't immediately see. Continuing when there's no visible reward. Staying disciplined when it feels like nothing is changing. Because everything in your brain is wired to seek quick feedback, quick validation, Quick results, but wealth doesn't work like that. It rewards patience. It rewards consistency. It rewards time. And if you don't give it time, it doesn't give you results. So if you feel like saving money isn't making you rich, you're right, it's not supposed to. It's just the beginning, the foundation, the first step. But if you stop there, if you never move beyond that, you'll stay in the same place indefinitely, always stable, always okay, but never truly free. In the moment you understand that, the moment you stop treating saving as the goal and start treating it as a tool, everything begins to shift. Your mindset changes, your strategy changes, your expectations change, and slowly, almost invisibly at first, your results start to change too. Not overnight, not instantly, but steadily, consistently, in a way that actually lasts. In one day, without even realizing when it happened, you look back and notice something different. You're no longer trying to catch up. You're no longer feeling behind. You're no longer stuck in that loop. Because now your money isn't just sitting there. It's finally moving forward with you, instead of holding you in place. And even when you finally understand this idea on a logical level, even when it makes complete sense in your head, there's still a gap between understanding and action. Because changing how you handle money isn't just about knowledge, it's about behavior. And behavior is driven by habits that have been built over years, sometimes decades. And those habits don't disappear overnight just because you watch one video or read one idea. You might feel motivated for a few days, maybe even a few weeks. You start paying more attention. You think more carefully before spending. You try to be more intentional. But then slowly, almost without noticing, you fall back into old patterns, not because you're lazy, not because you don't care, but because those patterns are comfortable. They're familiar. They require less mental energy. And your brain naturally chooses the path of least resistance, and this is where most people get discouraged. They think they failed. They think they're just bad with money. They start labeling themselves in ways that make change even harder, when in reality, what they're experiencing is completely normal. Change is supposed to feel difficult at first, especially when it involves something as emotional and deeply ingrained as money, because money isn't just numbers. It's tied to your identity, your lifestyle, your sense of security, your future, and even your self-worth, whether you realize it or not. Every financial decision carries a psychological weight. And that's why simply telling yourself to save more or spend less rarely works long term. What actually works is creating systems that reduce the need for constant decision making. Systems that operate in the background, quietly moving you forward even when you're not actively thinking about it. Because relying on willpower alone is unreliable. It fades, it fluctuates, it depends on your mood, your energy, your environment. The system doesn't care about your mood. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't make emotional decisions. It just runs, consistently, predictably, and over time. That consistency becomes your biggest advantage. This is why automation is so powerful. Not because it's complicated, but because it removes friction. It turns something that requires effort into something that happens by default. And when something becomes the default, it stops feeling like a struggle. Instead of deciding every month whether to save or invest, it happens automatically. Instead of debating every purchase in your head, your structure guides your behavior. And slowly, Your actions start aligning with your long-term goals without constant effort, and once that happens, something interesting shifts inside you. You stop feeling like you're constantly fighting your finances. You stop feeling like you're behind all the time. Because now there's a direction, there's a system, there's movement. Even if it's slow, and that feeling of movement, even small movement, is incredibly powerful. Because it replaces frustration with progress. And progress, even when it's gradual, builds momentum. But there's still one more obstacle that catches almost everyone at some point. And that's comparison. Because no matter how well you're doing, no matter how much progress you've made, it's incredibly easy to look around and feel like you're not doing it. If you see people online living better lifestyles, driving nicer cars, traveling more, buying things you're trying to avoid, and it creates this illusion that you're falling behind, even when you're actually making smarter decisions. And this is where discipline becomes not just financial, but mental. Because you have to separate appearance from reality. You have to remind yourself that what you see is often curated, incomplete, sometimes even misleading. Many people who look financially ahead are actually just further ahead in spending, not in building. They're maximizing lifestyle, not wealth. And those are two very different paths that only look similar on the surface and leads to long-term freedom. The other leads to long-term pressure, and the difference between them isn't always visible in the short term, which is why it's so easy to get confused. But if you stay focused on your own system, your own progress, your own timeline, something powerful happens. You start detaching from that constant comparison. You start measuring success differently, not by what you can buy today, but by what you're building for tomorrow. And that shift changes your entire relationship with money. Because now it's not just something you spend or save. It's something you direct, something you use intentionally, something that works for you instead of against you. And over time, this creates a completely different experience. Instead of feeling like you're constantly catching up, you start feeling like you're building something stable, something growing, something that actually has direction. You still have expenses, you still have responsibilities. Nothing magically disappears, but the pressure changes. It becomes manageable. It becomes structured. It becomes something you can control instead of something that controls you. And maybe the most important part of all this is understanding that there is no perfect moment to start doing this better. No ideal time when everything aligns perfectly. No point where you suddenly feel completely ready, because if you wait for that moment, you'll keep waiting, and while you wait, nothing changes. The same patterns repeat, the same frustrations return. The same feeling of being behind stays with you. The only real shift happens when you decide to act differently. Even in small ways, even imperfectly, even without full confidence. Because action creates clarity, not the other way around. And once you take that step, once you start building even the simplest system, once you begin directing your money instead of just reacting to it, everything slowly starts to align, not instantly, not dramatically, but steadily, in a way that actually lasts. And that's the difference between temporary change and real transformation. Because at the end of the day, it's not about how much you save in 1 month, or how perfect your budget is, or how disciplined you feel in the moment. It's about what you do consistently over time. It's about whether your actions are moving you forward, even slowly, even quietly. And if they are, then you're no longer stuck, You're no longer behind. You're just early in the process. And that's a completely different place to be, even if it doesn't feel like it yet.
Hello
That's
everyone,
all.
welcome to the
Subscribe
team.
and
I'm
like,
thrilled
and
to
I
have
will
you on
post even
board.
more
Let's achieve
interesting
great
and
things
useful
together.
videos about finance.